Thousands of years ago, a simple drink of water could become an extraordinary survival challenge. There were no taps, no bottles, and no modern filters. Humans had to understand the land, recognize nature's clues, and discover hidden sources of water. And once they found it, they still had to answer the most important question of all: can we safely drink this? Today, finding clean drinking water feels almost effortless. We turn on a faucet, fill a glass, and drink. But for ancient humans, water was one of the most important and dangerous things in the world. A river could save your life, but it could also make you terribly sick. So how did ancient humans know where to find water? And more importantly, how did they know which water was safe to drink? The answer begins with observation. Long before humans understood bacteria, parasites, or contamination, they learned to read the world around them. Animals became some of their most important guides. If a group of birds repeatedly flew toward the same area, ancient humans could follow them. Birds often needed water, especially in dry environments. Herds of animals could also reveal hidden water sources. If deer, antelope, elephants, or other animals regularly traveled in one direction, humans could sometimes follow their tracks and discover a river, spring, or watering hole. But animals were not the only clues. Ancient humans also learned to recognize the landscape itself. Certain plants grow only when water is nearby. Green vegetation in an otherwise dry landscape could be a powerful signal. Trees, reeds, grasses, and other water-loving plants could point toward underground water or a nearby stream. In deserts, even a small patch of unusually green plants might mean that water was hidden beneath the surface. Over generations, this knowledge became incredibly valuable. Imagine a group of early humans traveling across a dry landscape. One person notices a line of birds flying toward a distant valley. Another sees animal footprints in the mud. Someone else recognizes a group of green plants growing in an unusual location. Individually, each clue might mean very little, but together they could reveal something extremely important: water is nearby. Finding water, however, was only half the problem. The next challenge was deciding whether it was safe.
Ancient humans didn't know about microorganisms, but they could observe the consequences of drinking different water sources. If people repeatedly became sick after drinking from a particular pool, they could learn to avoid it. If a spring consistently provided water without causing obvious illness, that location could become extremely valuable to the group. This kind of knowledge could be passed from generation to generation. Parents could teach children where the safest springs were. Elders could remember seasonal water sources that disappeared during dry periods and returned after rainfall. A particular rock, tree, hill, or valley could become a landmark that helped people remember where water could be found. In other words, ancient humans didn't have water quality laboratories, they had experience. They also learned that moving water was often preferable to stagnant water. A flowing stream generally had less opportunity for certain contaminants to accumulate than a warm, stagnant pool. But this did not mean every flowing river was automatically safe. Humans still had to observe the surrounding environment. Was there a dead animal nearby? Was the water unusually dirty? Did it smell strange? Was there a settlement upstream? Even without modern science, these observations could help people make better decisions. And then came one of humanity's greatest discoveries: using fire to make water safer. At some point in human history, people discovered that heating water could change its properties. They may not have understood why boiling could kill dangerous organisms, but they could observe that heated water behaved differently and could sometimes be safer to consume. This was a major technological advantage. But before containers capable of holding water became common, boiling wasn't always simple. Early humans had to become creative. They could use natural containers such as shells, animal skins, wooden vessels, or other materials. Later, pottery transformed the possibilities. Once humans learned to make durable ceramic containers, they could collect water, transport it, store it, and heat it much easier.
This changed everything. A water source no longer had to be right beside the place where people lived. Humans could carry water back to camps and settlements. They could store it for later. They could survive longer periods without immediately returning to a river or spring. Eventually, humans began building settlements around reliable water sources. This is one reason rivers became so important to ancient civilizations. The Nile, Tigris, Euphrates, Indus, and other major river systems supported enormous populations. Water was not only needed for drinking, it was needed for agriculture, animals, cooking, cleaning, transportation, and eventually entire cities. But there was a hidden problem. The larger the settlement became, the more dangerous water contamination could become. Waste could enter rivers, animals could contaminate streams, flooding could spread dirty water across living areas. So humans gradually developed ways to protect and manage water. They built wells. Wells allowed people to access groundwater instead of depending entirely on surface rivers and ponds. Some ancient societies developed sophisticated wells, reservoirs, drainage systems, and water channels. These technologies were not created overnight. They were the result of thousands of years of experimentation. Think about how incredible that is. The first humans didn't begin with a scientific textbook explaining groundwater, filtration, or disease. They began with thirst. They watched animals. They watched plants. They watched the clouds. They remembered where rain had fallen. They noticed which places stayed green. They followed rivers. They learned from mistakes. And slowly, generation after generation, this survival knowledge became something much more sophisticated. But perhaps the most fascinating part is that humans didn't simply search for water. They learned to make water come to them. They dug wells. They created channels. They built reservoirs. They collected rainwater. They transported water across long distances. The journey from following animals to building massive water systems represents one of the greatest changes in human history. Today, we rarely think about the incredible journey behind a simple glass of water. You turn on a tap and water appears. But thousands of years ago, that same glass of water could have represented hours of walking, careful observation, memory, risk, and survival. For ancient humans, finding water wasn't just a daily task, it was a matter of life and death. And every time they discovered a reliable spring, a hidden stream, or a source of groundwater, they gained something more valuable than almost anything else in their world. They gained the chance to stay, to build, to grow, and eventually to create civilization. So the next time you drink a glass of water, remember this. Before humans had pipes, filters, bottles, or reservoirs, there were people walking across unknown landscapes, following animal tracks and searching for green plants, hoping that somewhere ahead they would find water. And that simple search may have helped shape the entire story of humanity. And if you enjoyed discovering how ancient humans found clean water, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories about human history, survival, and the inventions that changed our world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.